It was one of those cold winter evenings when the city felt quieter than usual, not because it was peaceful, but because people were too tired, too burdened to speak. The streets glowed dimly under flickering lamps, and the smell of roasted chestnuts mixed with car exhaust and frozen air. At the corner of a small bakery, a young woman sat on the curb, her arms wrapped tightly around a little girl, no older than 6. The woman's name was Elena, and the girl, her daughter, was Mia. Their clothes were thin, mismatched layers that barely held off the cold. In front of them sat a single paper cup, half filled with melted snow and a few coins. Elena tried to hide her trembling hands, brushing Mia's hair from her face. "Mommy, are you cold?" Mia whispered. Elena smiled, that kind of tired smile mothers wear when they're trying to be strong. "No, sweetheart. Mommy's fine. You're my little heater." Mia giggled softly, snuggling closer. But Elena's eyes, swollen from exhaustion, drifted toward the bakery window. Inside, families laughed, warm bread steaming in their hands. Elena's stomach ached, not just from hunger, but from shame that she had nothing to give her daughter except promises and stories. She had once been a nurse. A good one. But after her husband, Daniel, died in a car accident 2 years ago, her world fell apart. Medical bills, rent, daycare, everything piled up until she couldn't stand under the weight anymore. She lost her job after too many missed shifts, and eventually, she lost her home. Now, she and Mia moved from shelter to shelter, sometimes sleeping on bus benches when the shelters were full. That night, as snowflakes began to fall again, Elena whispered, "Let's go, Mia. Maybe the church will still have soup left." They started walking, their shoes soaked, when Mia suddenly stopped and tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mommy," she said, pointing toward the street. "Don't cry, Mommy. Maybe that man will help us." Elena looked up, embarrassed. Across the street, stepping out of a sleek black car, was a tall man in a long wool coat. His shoes shone like mirrors, and his wristwatch gleamed even under the streetlight. He was clearly someone important, the kind of person who didn't even look at people like her. Elena shook her head gently. "No, sweetheart. Let's not bother anyone, okay?" But Mia, innocent and hopeful, waved anyway. The man turned. His gaze landed on them for a brief moment, 2 figures in the cold, and then he hesitated. His driver opened the car door, waiting. But instead of getting in, the man crossed the street. "Are you two all right?" he asked, his voice low, deep, but gentle. Elena stood quickly, pulling Mia close. "We're fine, sir. Thank you." Mia peeked up at him. "Hi, mister. You look like someone from TV." The man chuckled softly. "Do I?" Mia nodded. "You have shiny shoes." He smiled, a real smile this time. "Well, thank you, young lady." He crouched down to her level. "What's your name?" "Mia. And this is my mommy." The man's gaze shifted to Elena, and for a moment, she felt exposed, not just her worn clothes, but her pain, her story, all written across her face. "I'm David," he said, standing again. "You both look like you could use a warm meal." Elena hesitated. Pride and desperation fought inside her. "We're okay," she murmured, but her voice betrayed her hunger. David glanced at Mia, who was now shivering slightly. "Please. It's no trouble. Let me buy you dinner." Before she could refuse again, he gestured toward the bakery. "Just a warm place for tonight. That's all." Something in his tone, firm, kind, almost fatherly, made her nod. Inside the bakery, warmth wrapped around them like a blanket. The smell of bread was intoxicating. Mia pressed her nose to the glass counter, eyes wide at the sight of pastries. David ordered for all 3 of them, soup, sandwiches, and hot chocolate with extra whipped cream for Mia. As they ate, he noticed the way Elena tried to make her meal stretch, leaving the biggest portion for her daughter. "So, Elena," he said gently. "What do you do?" Her spoon froze mid-air. "I used to be a nurse." "Used to be." She took a deep breath. "After my husband passed, I couldn't keep up. Bills, shifts, everything. I lost my job, then our apartment. I've been trying to get back on my feet, but every time I get close," she shook her head, tears forming. "It feels like the world keeps pushing me down." David listened quietly. Mia, oblivious to the heaviness, licked whipped cream off her nose and giggled. "Mommy's a superhero nurse. She helps people feel better." Elena smiled weakly. "Not anymore, sweetheart." David's eyes softened. Maybe not right now, but that doesn't mean you stopped being one. They talked for nearly an hour. David didn't ask for details or pity her. He just listened, something few people had done in a long time. Before they left, he reached into his coat pocket and took out a small card. "This is my number. I own a few medical facilities across the city. We could use someone like you." Elena blinked. "You mean, a job?" He nodded. "Come by tomorrow morning. Let's talk." Elena's voice trembled. I don't know what to say." "Say you'll show up," he said, smiling. "That's enough." That night, for the first time in months, Elena and Mia slept in a motel, paid for by David. Elena lay awake for a long time, watching her daughter sleep peacefully. She whispered a quiet prayer. "Thank you, whoever you are." The next morning, she stood in front of a tall glass building downtown, nervous, hopeful, terrified. The security guard smiled when she mentioned David's name and led her to the top floor. David greeted her in his office, all marble floors and city views. "You came," he said warmly. "Of course," she replied, clutching her worn purse. "I wasn't sure if last night was a dream." He chuckled. "No dream. I meant what I said." He handed her a folder. "This position is for an assistant nurse in one of our rehabilitation centers. It's not glamorous, but it's a start. And there's housing included for staff if you need it." Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," he said simply. "And I believe everyone deserves a second chance." Weeks passed, then months. Elena threw herself into her work. Her kindness, patience, and skill quickly earned her respect. She moved into a small staff apartment with Mia, who now went to school nearby. Every morning, Mia would pack her tiny backpack and say, "Bye, Mommy. I'm gonna make you proud." And every night, she'd run to the clinic after school to hug her mother, filling the halls with laughter. Elena hadn't felt this alive in years. One afternoon, David visited the rehabilitation center. He watched Elena gently bandage an elderly man's arm, talking to him softly, making him laugh. When she saw David, she smiled. "You're here." He nodded. "Just checking in. How's everything?" She grinned. "I think I'm finally okay." He glanced at Mia coloring at the reception desk. "She seems happy." "She is," Elena said. "You gave her childhood back." David paused, then said quietly, "You gave me something too." She looked puzzled. "I spent years chasing money, status, success, but that night, when your daughter pointed at me, I realized how empty I'd been. I'd built an empire, but not a life. You two reminded me of what really matters." Elena's eyes glistened. "Funny. We thought you were saving us." "Maybe we saved each other," he said with a smile. Months turned into years. Elena grew in her role, eventually becoming the head nurse at the center. David and Mia developed a special bond, like a father and daughter. Every Christmas, the three of them would visit the same bakery where it all began. They'd sit by the window, sharing hot chocolate and laughter. One evening, Mia, now 8, looked at David and asked, "Do you remember when I pointed at you that night?" David smiled. "I do. You looked like a little angel covered in snow." Mia giggled. "Mommy said not to bother people, but I just knew you'd help." Elena laughed. "You always had a good heart, Mia." David reached across the table, his eyes warm. "She gets it from you." Years later, Mia stood on a stage, delivering her valedictorian speech at high school graduation. "My mom taught me that no matter how hard life gets, kindness can change everything," she said, voice steady but emotional. "And I'll never forget the man who stopped on a snowy night just to help a stranger. Because of him, I grew up believing that good people still exist." In the audience, Elena wiped tears from her cheeks. David, now older but still proud, smiled beside her. When Mia stepped down from the stage, she ran straight to them, hugging both tightly. "I love you both," she whispered. They held her, wordlessly, hearts full, eyes wet, grateful for the miracle that started with one little girl's faith. Years earlier, it was a moment of desperation, a mother's tears, a child's hope, and a stranger's decision to care. But that single moment rippled through time, changing 3 lives forever. Sometimes, it doesn't take much to rewrite someone's story, just a pause, a glance, and the courage to help. Moral: a single act of kindness can turn despair into hope, and strangers into family.